Can you give me like a sexy jazz riff? We in. Spoilers for Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Yeah?
I like that.
Okay. I was nervous.
It was a little more trumpety than saxophony, but
Yeah.
it's cool. It's fine.
Yeah,
I liked it.
I was doing whatever I could.
It's all good. It worked perfectly for something that we did on the spot without any practice.
Yeah.
So, hey, everybody. Welcome to the Chris and Kyle Show. He's Chris. I'm Kyle. And like I said, these are spoilers for the poll-winning anime the whole season series of Cowboy Bebop.
You're
all
right.
26 episodes.
Do we need to start this over?
Nope, we're good. Nope. Cowboy Bebop. We're doing it.
That's how you play a trumpet, right? Right, not right by the
Nope,
nipples.
that's like the tiniest saxophone in the world. All up here. That's a little saxophone. Cowboy Bebop. With the stellar voice leads of Dat Boy Steve Bloom, who you may know as Tom from Toonami.
I don't know him as that.
You don't remember the Toonami robot?
I know the Toonami. I know what he looks like, but I don't remember what he sounds.
That's him,
like.
dude. That's Steve Bloom.
Like when I think of Steve Bloom, I
you
automatically
obviously
think of
Tits.
the Incredible,
The
I
Incredible
think
True
The
Story.
Yeah, the Logic album.
Yeah. He is the lead quote unquote lead character on that album. Also, Bo Billingsley as Jet Black, Wanda Lee as Faye Valentine, and Melissa Fawn as Radical Edward, or his full name, Radical Wong Hao Peppa Lutu something the fourth. I don't remember the whole thing. It's weird. Ed's a weird character. What did you think of this?
How are we going to tackle
1998 beloved, critically acclaimed, influential anime? Just sort of your general.
First thoughts. I loved it.
It's fucking really good.
I loved it.
It's really fucking good.
Now, I will be completely honest here. This is my second go through.
Really?
With Cowboy Bebop. I didn't watch it all the way through the first time. The first time that I actually tried watching this series, I only watched like 4 episodes.
Okay.
Because my initial turnoff was that it was too episodic, and I thought
that's
it was
kind
going
of
to be
that's
more
kind of
serialized.
my biggest problem with it.
We're gonna go into that more, but this second time through, I also kind of still had those thoughts, right? And there was a lot of points, a lot of like after specific episodes where I was thinking like, I'm not sure. Like, I feel like I like the idea of this more than I actually like.
You want to hear the hottest
series.
of my hot takes off the top of the show? I think the live action version of this that Netflix is making might end up being better than this.
Yeah.
I think the idea of this show suits itself really well to a shorter live action product.
Right.
I think it could be really great.
Right. So,
And I'm really interested in how it turns out.
for the people that don't know what Cowboy Bebop is, can you explain what the major plot point is? Probably?
Cowboy Bebop is a sci-fi anime about a crew of this ship called the Bebop and they're bounty hunters. And basically the show dabbles in them doing bounties, and then every like maybe 4 or 5 episodes, you get really strong backstory-driven episodes of them dealing with their pasts and stuff like that, where they come from. Which, to me, those are the best parts. Especially the stuff that deals with Spike's past in the Syndicate. The stuff with Vicious and Julia. That is the only real overarching plot, but it's it's barely overarching.
Right.
It's maybe like 6 episodes out of the whole series. Deal with it.
And there's 26 episodes.
Yeah, but those are so strong, those episodes. They're great.
And here's the thing, like I think a majority of people would actually agree with you, but I'm going to bring up something. I'm not sure if I should just bring it up now or later, but as like a counterpoint to that, because like it's weird because I like semi-agree with you, right? And a majority of people would agree with you as well. So like,
and it's not to say that there aren't other episodes that I really enjoy. Those are my favorite things in the show.
very true. Like even like those very episodic, just like
Like there's that one I mentioned to you last night. There's a really dumb episode where Edward is like running around following this mushroom guy.
Yeah.
And I like died laughing when that dude's coffin got run over because it's so stupid and silly.
Exactly. There's a lot of like little episodic adventures, just little misadventures that this group goes through that like aren't really necessarily like tied towards this serialized plot.
Yeah.
But they're still good regardless. So like the lowest rated episode in this entire series, right, is Woogie. Wait, hold on. Is it?
You got
Woogie?
this.
I think I spelled it wrong. I think it's Boogie Woogie.
Probably Boogie
I think it's
Woogie.
Boogie Woogie Feng Shui. But that's at 7.
Oh yeah, that one was weird. That one got a little creepy.
And that's at 7.0.
That's one of my other things. There's some stuff in the show that doesn't age well. There's some like weird
Yeah.
shit in the show that I was like, ooh, couldn't make that now.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Now, the ones that are the highest rated on, according to IMDb and users on IMDb.
I'm guessing it's the mid-season break and the finales.
The
part 1 and 2s, both of them.
Yeah, though for the most part. So like, but it's for the most part the ones that all deal with Spike's past,
Yeah.
right? So Ballad of the Fallen Angels is a 9.1. The last 2 episodes are an 8.8 and a 9.2. And like you said, the mid-season breaks. The Jupiter Jazz episodes are an 8.5 and an 8.7.
Yeah.
Those are all like pretty much the highest rated episodes for the entire series. And those are the ones that are dealing the most closely with Spike's past. Now,
And even though it's an ensemble cast, Spike is the lead character for sure.
like I said, I revisited this, right? And I had heard, like, since I'd given it up previously, I'd heard from a lot of people, like, they said, like, no, like, it gets, like, you get more of serialized stuff. You get more plot and backstory with the characters as the show goes on.
Kind of true.
It is.
It's just that
fairly
there's
true.
just more episodes dedicated to it.
And there was a lot of times when I was watching this show, and I was like, there's just so much diversion here, and there's so much, and like all these little episodic things, like I don't feel like they're really necessary to the plot.
That's what I mean when I say a shortened live action thing could be like incredible.
And I'll also
Something
say,
more focused.
And I'll also say this though, this show is something that like I think that you could miss a lot. There's a lot of symbolism,
for sure.
a lot
for
of
sure.
just effort and like multi-layered things that go on in the show that like through just one watch you're not going to notice.
Like something that leads into what you're talking about. I saw a thing from the creator of the show, a Japanese fellow by the name of Shinichiro Watanabe, and one of the goals that he like set out for himself was basically he wanted every episode to be treated like its own short film. So they like made the deliberate decision to not make things very like a through plot.
Yeah, serialized.
Yeah.
Right. It's very episodic, but it's weird how it sort of resides in a place like when I took my advanced or not advanced, when I took like my intro to screenwriting class at college, fucking this past semester, my teacher like made us choose between episodic and serialized when we were doing our treatments for our TV shows, right? If they were fictional. And like this show is not that binary. It's not either episodic.
Things build
or
up from
serialized.
past episodes.
Like they're even like within these episodic adventures that are like seem like they're only short films, right?
Yeah.
There's these films
They all have
that could exist unto themselves.
They all have their own tones. They all have their own messages. They all have their own musical footprint, which is super important to this show.
Now, this was like the last point that I was probably going to make, but fuck it. So this show deals with a lot of philosophy and shit, right? But one of the biggest things that they probably deal with is trying to escape your past.
Yeah.
Right? That's probably like one of the biggest themes throughout the show.
Because literally all of them have something in their past that they're avoiding or running from.
And like through looking into this show more and seeing what other people are saying about this show, it seems like, and maybe I'm like sort of like, this is coming through some sort of I don't know, me being naive and trying to rewrite what the show is. But Spike's theme is he's like always trying to run away from his past, and he ultimately kind of like ends up going back to it. I saw a quote online that was actually a really cool quote. This dude Richard Eisenbeis, he's definitely Jewish, right? He said Cowboy Bebop is an epilogue to a story we don't get to see. Right? So it's like a majority of this crazy sci-fi adventure is not really dealing with the future. It's dealing with all of these characters' past. It's them trying to uncover their past, running from their past, whatever, like trying to their difficulties with dealing with their past, right? And Spike, the main character, is very much this cowboy character who's like sort of like romanticizing his past as well as running away from it, and eventually has to go back into it. But Spike, throughout the entirety of this show, kind of references how he's running away from it, and how he also references how his times on the Bebop, and the Bebop is the ship that they're on, how it's very dreamlike. And at the very end of the show, he talks about how when he goes back to fight his fucking alter ego,
his rival,
right?
His ex-partner,
who's literally named Vicious.
He's fucking cool, dude. Vicious is fucking cool.
Yeah, Vicious is a fun antagonist. But
it's got that creepy bird.
But it's someone who is literally like kind of responsible for everything that's wrong with his life, right? Spike.
I mean, Spike at some point made the decision to join a crime syndicate, so that's his own fault.
So that's kind of fucked up. It's kind of fucked up. And he also kind of like stole his girlfriend.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Julia was with Vicious before him. Yeah.
Right. But Julia ended up dying.
Yes.
Right. And throughout, and at the very end,
I didn't think that got me. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, it was rough.
Like when it happened specifically, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
So this entire argument is for why they need those more episodic episodes.
The through line more.
Right?
No. You're saying why they need the not through line stuff.
This is the counterpoint against
well, you
only having the
you could make
stuff.
the argument that there's a lot of filler episodes, basically. They were like, we have a 26 episode count. We need some weird shit to throw in.
Exactly.
We need the heavy metal episode.
And this is my counterpoint to it. My counterpoint is that basically all of these episodes, all of these filler episodes that we're getting in this show are basically like we need them because those episodes are an extension of Spike's life. Those are the things that like he's doing in order to distract himself away from his past, and you can't just have a completely serialized thing where he's dealing with his past. Yeah. And not
without him having a present.
Well, without him having a present, it's the two eyes thing, right? Yeah. He has one eye that fucking sees the past and one eye that sees the present.
Dude, I was so confused by that throughout a lot of the show because they mentioned it a couple times that he has different colored eyes. And then there's the episode with the supervillain, the fucking dude that looks like the Penguin, with the blow up suit, and he has the cat in his flashbacks. Yeah. The two colored eyed cat. Yeah. And when he sees Spike, it like freaks him out. It triggers him. But Spike's eyes always look the same color to me. Right. And then at the very last episode, he talks about how one of them is a robotic eye, and you can tell they're like slightly different colored browns.
So he talked about it before that episode.
Yeah.
He talked about it before that Perot Le Fou episode. So like I had caught that.
Yeah, he talked about it multiple times throughout the show, but like every time I look at his eyes, I'm like, they look the same. Like why what is he talking about? Two different colored eyes.
Yeah. Apparently originally the show creator wanted to give Spike an eye patch, but the producers were like no. Which I actually think that's like thematically, like visually that would have been cool.
Be interesting.
I think it would have
Isn't Spike cool enough already though?
Okay, that's one thing that we need to talk about with the show. There's a lot of stuff that we should be talking about, right? I don't know how reductive this is to just label it as cool, but that's one of the best things about the show.
Yeah, it's super fucking cool.
So cool.
Another reason I think that the live action adaptation has a lot of potential is the technology stuff I think can be fucking awesome in live action. The spaceships, like imagine the swordfish in live action and Spike driving it with this like the weird pedal style driving they do with the like almost like a motorcycle way they drive. It has really interesting sci-fi technology. The gates are awesome. The way they use space travel is very cool. There's just a lot of really cool like sci-fi stuff in it that I think is really unique.
Yeah,
but they also still use like regular guns and shit. Like they don't use like laser beam guns and stuff. Except the one thing on the swordfish has a laser beam. But
yeah, that coolness, right? Definitely fucking comes from a lot of this like genre.
Although I
shit
will
that's
say,
coming?
my boy Spike, he wears a Dwight shirt. I just have to throw it out there.
Yeah?
He wears a mustard shirt.
Mm-hmm.
He just does.
Kinda, but he can rock it. It makes sense. Dwight's also really cool though. But how often did you think of Tarantino at all? Like, did you think of Tarantino at all when you were watching this?
A little bit, but it was kind of in a roundabout way because I also thought of The Incredible True Story a lot while watching it,
Right.
because I know that a huge reason that Logic made The Incredible True Story was because he watched Cowboy Bebop
Exactly.
and fell in love with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought about how his connections to Quentin Tarantino and sort of the stuff that he loves and how you can tell they're sort of driven from it. And I know Quentin has taken inspiration from Cowboy Bebop before for stuff and Kill Bill
Absolutely.
and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So like I was thinking about all those things while watching it.
I went back and rewatched the anime sequence that's in Kill Bill.
I didn't
Volume
know
1.
that was a thing. I read
Yeah.
something about it yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dog, I mean, they have it on YouTube. I mean, it's like only like a 2.5 minute video on YouTube. But it's basically just like a little revenge plot.
Yeah.
That's of this little girl killing this dude and fucking really cool anime style. It's different from Cowboy Bebop visually. You can tell like it's very inspired by anime, but it seems even more cinematic than that.
Yeah.
But in this incredibly violent scene, that's like it's more gory than
Cowboy
Cowboy
Bebop's
Bebop.
pretty violent too.
Cowboy Bebop, yeah, it's very violent. But it's not as bloody.
I
As
mean,
the
like
sequence from
you will
Kill
cry
Bill.
tears of blood. That shit's
Yeah.
brutal.
Yeah, for sure. But throughout this violent scene, this violent action scene in Kill Bill, there's a lot of harmonica.
Oh, okay.
And there's
Yeah.
it's kind of like just this smooth
Do
sort
you
of bluesy
do you feel
harmonica
like
throughout.
maybe because we're so late to we're like 20 years late to Cowboy Bebop at
Right.
this point. The juxtaposition of the music to the action is kind of more of a thing now, doing weirder music to action sequences. You see it a little more often now. I don't know if like back then how like almost revolutionary that was to be like,
Right.
look at these fucking dogfights in space with spaceships with smooth jazz playing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it's awesome. I love it. I think it's a really cool dichotomy.
It was the one thing that like I picked up immediately. It's for sure the most apparent thing
Yeah.
about the show itself is the music and the use of the music.
Yeah.
And I think that's like it's
And
essential
like almost
to what the
every
show
episode
is.
title is a reference to a song or
The title of the show itself is Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah.
Bebop is a style of music.
Yeah.
And the really fucking courageous use of music, how it's integrated, like the diegetic, however the fuck you say it, sound that's within the show itself. I mean, like you cannot separate this show from its music.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The other two, like you mentioned Quentin, and the other two things I thought of a lot were Firefly
You're right.
and the weird one, Digimon. You know
Okay.
why?
What?
Ton of voiceover crossover where I was like, I know that voice. Holy shit, that was Ogremon. Like Jet
Yeah.
Black was in like, and I was like, oh, I know that. And it was like, yo, what's going on? It was like freaking me out. Like deep seated voice knowledge in my mind where I was like triggered by it, and I had to like look it up, and I was like, Digimon actor.
Yeah.
But the Firefly for sure. I mean, like, if you told me Joss Whedon like loved Cowboy Bebop before he made Firefly, I would totally believe you. Firefly is so. I actually think this is an interesting point. You haven't watched all of Firefly, so I won't spoil anything.
I've
But-
watched like 5 minutes of
Yeah,
Firefly.
but you should watch it.
Yeah.
Cowboy Bebop almost. It like brings you to this brink of thinking this is a story that it ends up not being, kind of, in that this is a story about finding your family. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
And it is that, but it's also not that because of the decisions the characters make in the end. In the end, Spike goes back to die, and Jet and Faye don't go with him, and Ed is gone. In Firefly, they all would have died together because they wouldn't have let Spike go alone because they become this family and this close-knit group. That's like the biggest difference in terms of the crew of this ship that lives a life of a family unit that like I was expecting to play out in the traditional sense of however the show ends, they're going to do it together, and it didn't.
No.
And I thought it was a really interesting decision, and like I thought it was really cool.
Right. Did it disappoint you at all?
No.
Okay.
Because I think it fit the tone of the show really well. And
Okay.
and like any decision like that has to be rooted in the established character, and I think it worked for all of them.
Right.
I think it makes complete sense for Spike to go do that.
Uh-huh.
It makes like more than enough sense for Faye to be like, yeah, fuck that. And I think Jet makes sense too to me. Like Jet could have gone either way. You know, like Jet. If Jet went, I would have believed it. If Jet stayed, I'd believe it.
Right.
And then like it kind of leads into this thing where now it's just like you could just hit the refresh button and the show starts over. But instead of Jet and Spike on the Bebop, it's Jet and Faye on the Bebop, living this weird sort of like we're partners but not really life. It's interesting. They like the connections of all of the characters on the Bebop are interesting.
Yeah, I was thinking about a lot of. So I was thinking about all of the things that this show has influenced, as well as all the things that it's probably influenced by.
Yeah.
Like especially like just right from the get go, the first thing that I thought of was like, wow, this is like a very Western influenced anime.
Cowboy.
It's literally like called Cowboy Bebop, but like the genres of Western and noir shit.
Yeah.
As well as like the specific things like that they would be referencing throughout the show, at least like the things that I would think of. Like there was a straight up alien episode.
The weird refrigerator episode.
Yeah. There's a straight up horror episode.
Yeah.
The computer, the satellite that fucking.
That looked like 2001.
It was
the
2001
eyeball was a 2001
sure.
eyeball. That was like the first shot of the episode, and I was like, oh, a 2001 episode.
Right. And obviously
that's the one where they met Ed, right?
Yeah.
That was Ed's introduction. Yeah.
And there's other things that probably like aren't necessarily Western.
Well, and like even you're talking about like I think the noir stuff might actually hit harder than the cowboy stuff.
You think so?
I think it might, because so many of the episodes they're like gray and they're very deliberate and everybody's fucking smoking. You know what I mean? There's while I think I think Spike is more of a like archetypal cowboy, he thinks he's more of an archetypal like noir detective. You know what I mean? The way that he like acts and the way he dresses.
Okay.
Yeah, like he does cowboy shit,
right.
but he like, and you kind of see it in the episode with that actual cowboy guy that Spike hates. I forget what that guy's name was, but he like rides in on a horse whistling and shit. And Spike's like, "Fuck this guy, he's an asshole." And Faye and Jet are like, "He's just like you," and he's like, "No, I'm not like that." Like, and he doesn't believe those things about himself.
Right. Yeah, I think that's an interesting take. Like, I'm not super. I don't watch a ton of Westerns, but like from what I know about Westerns, it seems like this is very much like as far as how the character thinks, the character of Spice thinks, he's very much a cowboy.
Oh yeah, he definitely is.
Yeah. That's
the thing. Like Spike is a lot of things. Spike is a cowboy. Spike is a noir detective. Spike is a pirate. Spike is a samurai. Like he's a bunch of different things.
Yeah, but this show is very much a pastiche of
he's
a lot of different things.
He's a pilot. He's a Han Solo type. Like he's so many different things.
Like you can definitely pick up like influences of Blade Runner, Bruce Lee's Game of Death, that fucking entire second episode when he was fighting Hakeem something.
That one was cool with the huge dude.
Abdul Rakim.
I literally was like, oh, this is like when Kareem Abdul Kareem was in a Bruce Lee movie. That's exactly what
Game
I thought.
Of Death. Yeah.
That one was
Alien
cool.
2001.
Is he the
Blade
one?
Runner.
Is he the one who had? They were like, oh, he had facial reconstruction, so he looked completely different. Yeah, that was a cool episode.
Yeah, I saw a quote online. This dude from the Atlantic, Alex Susking, said he said that referencing
Sergio Leone.
He said it's Sergio Leone in a spacesuit, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid with automatic weapons.
Oh, I saw that too. Yeah,
I was like,
that's cool.
That's a cool quote. But it's very much a pastiche of a lot of different things kind of like combined together. It's kind of like Stranger Things in that aspect.
Yeah, kind of.
You know, like it's just a lot of things.
It's not the same as Stranger Things, but it is Stranger Things in the way that it's a bunch of different stuff plopped together.
Did you think of Stranger Things at all during that Perot Le Fou episode?
The one with the penguin?
With the penguin guy.
I thought about Batman, obviously, because he looked
Batman
like
is
the penguin.
He
used an umbrella gun.
And Batman is also known for its noir aspects, especially the animated series.
Yeah. Did I think of Stranger Things during that episode at all? No.
There was like
was there a side plot?
And not really the side plot when they showed the backstory of Perot.
Oh, like 11 kind of.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you mean.
I thought of 11 a lot.
No, I didn't, but I get why you
like
think
all of the
that.
experimentation and the shit that they were doing. And like, you know, he was in a straitjacket and fucking, I don't know. I was thinking of that.
What's some stuff that you didn't like from it?
So, like I said, like my initial reaction to all of these like all this episodic stuff, I was like, well, they can do without this. And I'm not sure if that's the case. And it's something that I think I have to.
What if I gave you
rewatch the
this?
show.
What if I said instead of 26, they do 18?
But what are you going to do with taking out those 8 episodes?
I don't know. I mean,
You're just going to make less episodic stuff?
You're going to take out filler episodes. You're not going to take out any of Faye's backstory or any of Jet's backstory or any of Spike's backstory. We don't really get a ton of Ed backstory. We basically meet Ed, and then Ed plays chess, and then Ed's dad shows up. Like, those are really the Ed episodes.
Do you feel like the filler episodes are necessary at all to the story?
I think that the purpose they serve is what you mentioned earlier,
Right.
in that it creates the current world. It creates, what's the word? When you do like the hero's journey, kind of, there's the state the world is
Ordinary
in. Right?
world.
Yeah, it's kind of their ordinary world, and we have to live in it to understand at the end of the show, like, why their decisions mean so much.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's kind of a weird, almost reversal of that hero's journey wheel.
See, here's what I think those filler episodes are. So
And I would also say, like, I feel like filler episodes are in a lot of, especially older, just shows in general. Like, anything with long episode counts, like network TV with 22 episodes.
Yeah.
Old, and like, if you go watch like Pokemon and shit, and it's like, here's 80 episodes, and you're like, you only need like fucking 20 of these guys. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's like, and like the filler episodes in Cowboy Bebop are much higher quality than random ass Diglett episode of Pokemon or some shit.
Exactly.
They're really fucking good.
Exactly.
But they just don't always feel. I'm like, can I get to that fucking dope shit?
Are
You know
they
what I mean?
they as necessary
Yeah.
as the really good episodes? Now, like, and like I said, admittedly, maybe I'm like trying to ascribe more meaning to those filler episodes than I really should be. And really, they're just filler episodes. But like, I was watching a Wisecrack is a YouTube channel. They did a philosophy of Cowboy Bebop video where they were talking about how just the philosophy of Cowboy Bebop and shit. But they were talking about how they were talking about skepticism.
Okay.
And specifically Spike's skepticism, and how, and they brought up this,
I don't like kids.
old school philosophy, the philosopher named Wang Zi.
Okay.
I think that's how you pronounce it, even though it starts with a Z. It's fucking really whack.
You said Z.
No, Wang Zi.
Oh, one word. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm seeing it spelled now, and I understand
Yeah.
the problem here.
Kind of
Okay,
crazy, right?
Gotcha.
It's like, it starts with a Z, but whatever. But he had this philosophy of basically like he dreamt one night that he was a butterfly.
Okay.
Right. And all he knew was like the happiness of being a butterfly.
Okay.
And when he woke up, he was once again a man, and he like forgot that he was a butterfly. But he was like forced to confront with like, you know, he was like, am I a butterfly that's dreaming of being a man, or a man dreaming that I'm a butterfly? I'm
gonna go with the latter. I'm just gonna guess it's the latter.
But I think that those filler episodes could very much be the butterfly dreams, right? They're what Spike is sort of encountering in order to, like, you know, deal with his existence out in space.
Kind of interesting,
because he's trying to evade his own past. So that's why
do
he
you think there's a level
take
to
mushrooms and
yeah.
you know.
Do you think there's a level to Spike's character that like the reason Cowboy Bebop doesn't become Firefly is because Spike won't let himself do that? Like, Spike is preventing himself from being like happy with his new life because he's so obsessed with his old life, in a way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, yeah, I saw something about like why about the tropes in westerns and what the main characters have to do. And usually, like cowboys they're not like the cowboy version of a Caped Crusader.
They're loners.
They're not. Yeah, they're not superheroes.
No,
they're very much
different.
someone that like they have to be wronged in a way to where like maybe they wronged someone close to them, or they were
wronged by someone close to them.
Wronged by someone close to them, or someone close to them was wronged. Right?
Okay, yeah. Which, I mean, Spike, all the above.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Check those boxes.
Exactly. Where was I going with that?
I don't know.
What were we talking about?
I was talking about how Spike like prevented himself from enjoying like the current state of his life.
So he
or fully embracing maybe.
I mean, he's someone who's like obviously running away from his own past, but like romanticizing it, right? Yeah. And like they addressed a lot of those themes with Jet's character as well, right? When his backstory.
I really liked that episode.
That was a fun episode.
That was really good, and it incorporated. Wait, no, never mind. But yeah, that's the one where he found out his partner was like crooked the whole time.
Yeah, he found his partner was crooked the whole time. Is that the same episode as when he met his ex-girlfriend or whatever? That's the one.
No, that's a different one.
That's the one that
those are both really good though.
That's the one that I'm talking about with his ex-girlfriend. Like, and she's like holding a gun to him at the end of the episode because he has to arrest her
current boyfriend.
Her current boyfriend, and they haven't seen each other in years or whatever the fuck, right? And she's holding a gun to him, and she's like,
she starts fucking shooting it.
Yeah, but she tells him, she's like, this is how it always was. Like you were always right. You were always, and then like he kind of has that moment of like, oh, like maybe this romance, right? Like that I had in my head, I'm sort of idealizing it.
Yeah. He Michael Scotted it.
Yeah, he Michael Scotted it. But yeah, I definitely see what you're saying though. Like as far as like. But it's a very cowboy thing.
It's what makes Cowboy Bebop unique. Even like that episode you're just now talking about. In another, especially like if you're watching like a network show or something, in that episode where Jet meets his old ex that he's in love with, by the end of that episode, like they're in love again in a normal TV show. Mm-hmm. Or by the end of Cowboy Bebop, Spike, Jet, and Faye all fly in guns a-blazing and they defeat Vicious and they save Julia. Or whatever. Or even more likely, Julia dies in the crossfire and then Spike and Faye are like, we're in love with each other or something weird. But they don't do any of those expected tropes in Cowboy Bebop. They almost subvert them all, which I like.
Well, like
avoid them, if not subverting.
I think subverting is probably I think transcend is probably the best.
That's a good one.
Is probably the best. But like, so there's a quote from Tarantino that I thought of while I was watching this because like this show very much like the creator wanted to create a fucking very genre busting thing. You know,
it's kind of cool.
He wanted to create something that was a genre of
They
its
gave
own.
this dude basically free for all. They were like, we just need you to make something that can sell space toys, but do whatever you want. And he was like, I can do whatever I want. And they were like, yeah. And he was like, fuck yeah. And he went nuts. And then they canceled it 12 episodes in. So the first 12 aired and they canceled it. Mm-hmm. So imagine getting cut off at like the first time you meet Vicious, I think. Mm-hmm. That'd be fucking horrible. And then eventually it picked up so much of a cult following that they like released the rest of the episodes. I thought that was really interesting.
Right.
But you were saying a Tarantino quote about it.
Yeah, so this show obviously combines elements of sci-fi, westerns, and noirs. Like those are probably like
those are the big three.
Yeah, those are the big three genres. There's also elements of horror, obviously, like I said with the Alien episode. Fucking romance is obviously a big one. Comedy, it's not a dull show at all.
No,
there's a lot of comedy in there as well. But Tarantino brought up like, and you're talking about subversion, right? And sort of like, and you were mostly talking about tropes, right?
Yeah.
But like a lot of those tropes come out of genre, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And it reminded, while I was watching this show, it reminded me a lot of Tarantino, not in just like the violence and the coolness of it all, but like in the transcending
of tropes.
Of tropes and of genre. And Tarantino said this about genre. It's kind of a long quote, but I'll try to go through it all.
Can you do a Tarantino impression while you do it?
That's my Tarantino impression. So he said, genre actually keeps me disciplined. As terrific as I think my characters are, and as much as I want to explore them and go with them, it has to work inside of that genre that I'm doing. If I'm doing a Western, if I'm doing a World War II movie, if I'm making a martial arts film, I don't want to do an art film meditation of that. I want it to actually deliver the goods. If you like martial arts films, I want you to watch Kill Bill and see a really terrific martial art film. Frankly, I want it to be more than that. But as far as delivering the goods for the given genre, that has to happen. So, I mean, he's basically talking about transcending the genre and delivering on the funner elements of that genre.
It's a really important part of genre, right? When you sit down to watch a Western or you sit down to watch a martial arts film, or when you set out to create one of these things, you're entering a sort of social contract of expectation.
Exactly.
And then, like, I think the real geniuses know how to work within those parameters. Mm-hmm. I actually listened to a podcast last week. It's Joseph Gordon-Levitt's new podcast. He had Ryan Johnson on his first episode, and they talked a lot about that, about like working within genre, but finding ways to almost get out of that box without leaving it. It's this very like subtle art form to figure out. And he talked about it a lot with Brick, and stuff like that when he was talking about it.
Is that why you watched Brick?
Yeah, I was in that podcast and I was like, I have to watch Brick.
It's actually kind of funny because like apparently Ryan Johnson
was inspired by Cowboy Bebop. That's just kind of
while
weird.
He was writing Brick.
Yeah.
So it was kind of interesting. But
some detective novels he kept talking about
that's
in this
something
podcast.
that Cowboy Bebop for sure does. Like as deep and philosophical and interesting and emotional and, you know, symbolic and metaphorical that you can get with this show. Mm-hmm. There's also fucking space fights and fucking creepy
there's just
alien
gun
creatures and gunfights and the fucking fun dialogue and shit, you know. So yeah, a lot of that in that way kind of like reminded me of Tarantino.
Yeah, I feel like I like the stuff that I didn't like the most, I think is just my own separation from anime. There's stuff about anime that I just don't like that much.
Yeah.
It's just some weird stuff. It's like little things. Like the stupid bounty show they watch with the two actors playing
that bothered you?
I just think it's dumb. I'm just like, this is stupid. Why? Like, this dude's accent seems super offensive. Right. Like, and then I did like when that dude showed up at the airport later, and he like, did you catch that?
No, I didn't.
There's a part where it's like the second to last episode, I think, or the third to last, where Faye is like, she gets her memories back, and she's like wants to go back, and she's at the airport.
Oh,
and there's an old woman
and her
crying.
Mom is there,
and the guy,
the mom is there.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh, no one wants to." And then he shows up, and he's like, "I'll take care of you." But she's like, "Did you find a new job yet?" And he's like, "No, my agent says we're gonna work on it."
Yeah,
like that's the dude, and he like has a normal voice. Okay. So he was doing a super offensive accent, I guess, for that for his role on this weird bounty show.
Yeah,
it's just like little things that I'm like, it's just like a little too weird. Yeah. That I get with anime. And then, it's just like...
There's a degree of weirdness. Like, this show, for sure, has a very minimal amount of weirdness.
Most anime is much weirder.
So, I was actually super surprised. I thought that this...
It is, like, the weirdest part of the show, but I like it.
I actually really enjoy it.
It is super silly and fun.
And it's also, like, a girl named Edward.
She named herself Edward.
Yeah, it's really strange.
And she, like, has a cool... like, a really, like, sweet connection with Ein, the dog.
Yeah.
She's fun, and she's like a huge part of the like comedy relief of the show. Like she's a big part of like being goofy.
This is another thing that we should probably talk about, like as far as comic relief, right? Because like I feel like when people think of like comic relief, they think of
Jonah Hill.
Like Jonah Hill, fucking Seth Rogen,
the
funny guy, like Seth Rogen in 50-50, the guy who brings in the
movie.
Good
fucking
movie,
person
that you're gonna laugh at. Like
I
was never necessarily laughing at.
Do you know Seth Rogen's character's name in 50-50?
What is it?
Kyle.
Okay. All right. Yeah, but like I think when a lot of people think of comic relief, they think of like the person that you're supposed to laugh at. Like
okay, I see what you mean.
Laugh with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're supposed
to
be
the person who makes deliberate
laughing.
jokes
and a lot of people
makes fun of things. Yeah.
And a lot of people will kind of like undermine a lot of comedy that doesn't make you laugh out loud.
Sure.
Right? And Edward's character very, very much like doesn't.
Yeah, not very often. Like when Ed's just going like Faye, hacking computer, blah, 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 like her limbs are like doing weird, like
But it's levity.
Yeah, it's just levity.
It's also levity that's like seems authentic to the world. It's not. It's not thrown in. It's not pigeonholed levity.
I agree.
So I actually really did like Edward's character. What else was I gonna say?
I don't know. What were you gonna say?
World building's cool.
Yep.
The show is very subtle. Like, there's just like a lot of things that you can, like I said before.
The world building stuff kind of like it ties into the sci-fi aspect I was talking about earlier. Like, there's just the technology and the history of what's happened in the world is super interesting.
Right.
Although I gotta say, dude, if you're making a sci-fi show, don't put a year on it. You're gonna be wrong. This show takes place in 2071. You know what's not going to be happening in 2071? Any of this.
I mean, who cares, dude?
It's just, I'm like, come on. Like, that's like in my mind, I'm like, this is like thousands of years in the future.
I mean, who knows?
Or at least
dude?
hundreds.
Who knows, man?
Yeah, it's true. You never know. Maybe we'll develop a Stargate that goes haywire and explodes the moon, thus ruining Earth, and we then have to start terraforming the other planets.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll happen in the next 40 years or whatever. 50 years. Maybe it'll happen.
Maybe. Fuck, I was going to say something else.
I mean, you have 3 pages of notes there. Why don't you look through them?
I kind of looked. I kind of said everything.
You went in on
my
this.
notes.
I like how you just wrote every single episode title there.
Yeah. I wanted it for reference because I knew that there was going to be times, and I used it 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, this show's great though. If you don't even have to be an anime fan, I would say
that's
to watch
exactly
it.
what I was going to start talking
really?
about. So what animes have you watched?
Not a lot.
Pokemon, Digimon.
Pokemon and Digimon when I was a kid, Zoids, Dragon Ball Z. The only other one I watch now is My Hero Academia.
I was actually super fucking surprised that this was. I thought that this was the top-rated anime on IMDb. It's not.
What is?
So it's the 3rd rated anime, and I guess 4th is
Scrub.
Okay, so I think number 1 is Full Metal Alchemist.
Okay.
Number 2 is Death Note, which I was surprised by. I was like,
People love Death Note.
I
Not
love
the Netflix movie, the show.
I love Death Note, and I've seen a majority of Full Metal Alchemist. I still got to finish it. There's a lot more to Full Metal Alchemist. I think there's 80 something episodes.
Oh my god.
At least Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I think there's a couple of different iterations, but Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood I think is like a 9.1. Death Note's a 9.0, and I think this is like an 8.9.
Okay.
I was kind of surprised by that, and Full Metal Alchemist is also the weirdest of the 3. Death Note.
So another thing you kind of have to think about though, right, is who's rating Full Metal Alchemist online? It's probably people that really like anime and watch Full Metal. You know what I mean? I feel, especially when you get into shows, it's a little less reliable when you start looking at IMDb ratings and stuff.
Right.
Not to say that they're not all really good shows. It's just you have to it's
less
a little
people watch it, so that can kind of raise. But I think there's a threshold as far as how many people have.
Well,
to
I mean,
vote on
I'm
it.
sure enough people have voted on Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
a pretty popular show.
Sure. But I think
does Avatar count?
So that is rated higher. So the top rated animated show period is Rick and Morty, and then literally right below that
is Avatar.
Is Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah. Does that count as an anime though?
It's obviously inspired
by
anime,
it's definitely inspired by it, but it's not it isn't made in Japan. It's not an Eastern show. It's a Western show. So I don't think it counts. It's an anime.
I don't think it does.
That would be my favorite anime if it counted.
Right.
But I don't think it does.
But I think one of the reasons why this show is so beloved for a lot of people is because once it started showing on Adult Swim, it was very much like the gateway anime for a lot of kids, for a lot of people.
Dude, pretty brutal show for kids. There's a scene where a dude's throat gets slit and blood goes everywhere. It's like a fountain.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
Cool though.
They also say shit.
Yeah. They say shit.
They say shit.
I think they say bastard.
They say bastard?
I think they might say bastard at one point. It just seems like something that Jet or Spike would say. I can hear it.
Right.
Yeah. Another reason this show is so popular is because the dub is considered really well done. Which we mentioned the voice actors earlier. They're great.
Which is a lot of people have reservations as far as watching things that are subtitled.
Well, it's a weird. I don't like doing it that much. I have a barrier. It's just a block. I don't like watching things in other languages that much.
I want to watch it through with subtitles
to see the original.
Because apparently, there's references and shit that they miss.
Yeah, which happens all the time.
It happens all the time. But I caught one while I was watching the Wisecrack video for the philosophy of Cowboy Bebop or whatever, because they were using the subbed audio, right? And in the subbed audio, the subtitles show that one in the episode Funk Cowboy or Cowboy Funk or whatever the fuck it was called. Yep, Cowboy Funk. When Andy, the cowboy character, is
whistle guy.
Yeah, the whistle dude is having dinner with Faye. He in the dubbed audio says, "Cheers to my reflection." Here, hold on. I actually wrote it down.
Ayo.
Yeah, he says, so now why don't we drink to my reflection in your lovely eyes? He says that quote, which is like,
dude.
yeah, he's just being narcissistic. It's a fine piece of dialogue, but in the actual original
In the sub, yeah.
subbed dialogue, he says, "Here's looking at my reflection, kid," which is a reference to Casablanca.
Oh, okay.
Where he says, "Here's looking at you, kid."
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I wonder how many things like I might be
Little
missing.
things like that, yeah.
Maybe they're not all fucking references to other pop culture and shit like that, but they could be.
Yeah.
They could be different lines of dialogue that might color the characters differently.
Yeah.
So,
well,
I think it'd be interesting to watch it again subtitled.
I think we drove it home pretty well.
Yeah.
If you like good stuff, watch Cowboy Bebop. It's really good. One thing I would say, like, to me, I know you watched it in like 2 days because you procrastinated super hard, but I watched it over the course of like a week and a half. It was not a binge show for me. I wasn't like, it's so deliberate. The pace of every episode is like so like deliberate.
I think the episodic nature also doesn't.
It doesn't. It's not like, all right, you got to watch the next one to see what it doesn't. It doesn't have that draw to it. Where I was like, I would watch like 3 or 4 and be like, all right, I'm good. Like that's enough Cowboy Bebop for the day. So like, I just think that's interesting.
Yeah, like a lot of episodic shows, like they're harder to binge like that. Like you can't binge Twilight Zone. You can't do it. Like I can watch maybe 2-3 episodes, maybe 3 episodes.
Plus, like Cowboy Bebop and Twilight Zone, they want you to think about stuff. They aren't just like, I'm throwing flashy stuff at you to entertain you for 30 minutes to an hour. They really have substance to them. I think that's going to be it for the Cowboy Bebop episode, though. I think we did it.
Yeah.
We are coming back next week with Mission Impossible Fallout because it is now streaming and Chris hasn't seen it yet. So he's going to watch Tom Cruise do a lot of running and his own stunts, and then we're going to talk about it. And we're putting up a poll, or actually when this comes out, it will already be out. We're putting up a poll for Christopher Nolan off The Eyes of Christopher Nolan, Inception versus Interstellar.
Right.
Are there any other eye movies?
Insomnia.
Damn it. Too many eyes, Nolan. You got to... No more for you. The 2 most popular eye movies. Inception, Interstellar. That's our poll this month. And we're going to be dropping that the 3rd week of this month because the way movie releases line up is a little weird this month. We want to do Ad Astra, so. Yeah, so vote on the poll. Check us out on the social medias. Chris at chrismichaelstott.com. You can read his scripts. Chris Michael Stott on Instagram. I am Davinwell25 on Twitter and Instagram. The show, The Chris and Kyle Show, on Facebook, on Instagram, on all of the podcasting platforms, on YouTube. Like, share, rate, review, all that fun stuff. tcaks pod on Twitter. You'll find the poll on Twitter and Facebook. See you, Space Cowboys. We out.
We out. Stay weird.